Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples virtual edition. It's great to have you all with us this morning. I hope you're feeling well. We are a welcoming congregation even if we can't be together in body. We are so in spirit. We love one another, treat each other well, care for one another in mutual respect. We love to learn and grow together. Our goal is to create a wider community of peace, justice, and love. So welcome to this Sunday morning, March 29th, 2020. We are living in strange times, but we hope to make the best of it while holding those on the front lines, both those who are ill, those families who have lost loved ones, and those who are working hard to contain this virus. While holding them in our hearts, we work together to maintain our community, our sense of togetherness. I want to thank once again Bob Muchette and Lane Lamb for being here with me this morning. We are the only three here in the building, and it feels empty without you. But I am projecting you into these seats in front of me and sending back your good feelings of welcome and love. Today's an important day in the life of this congregation. We are holding our annual meeting virtually today. If you haven't received notices, then you probably haven't looked at your email, because there are a couple of notices there for you to look at carefully, to read, and then after this service is over, to access an online recording of the annual meeting presentations, motions, and things that we need to vote on. You are invited after that to send questions, if any, to two different email addresses. Wait for responses. And then beginning at 11:30, the earliest possible time, you will be sent instructions to join into voting on a SurveyMonkey platform. All those things will be sent to you, have been sent to you, will be sent to you. I'm not going to try to duplicate any of the specific information, because I know what would happen if I did that. So please look at your emails. We really need all of you to participate in order to make this a legal annual meeting. And that means at least 87 of you to vote. So please take a look at your email instructions and enjoy the presentations, ask questions if you need to, and then get on to SurveyMonkey and offer your opinions, your vote, as members of the congregation. I should say that if you're not a member of the congregation, if you haven't signed the book, you probably didn't receive those things because, in fact, you can't vote, but you can still look at the presentations and see what's going on and find out more about the life of the congregation. In the normal course of events on this particular Sunday, I would have called Missy Cowan forward to talk to you about the weekend meals program. But since we're keeping to a tight minimum of 3 people here at UUCGN, I have the privilege of doing the talking while Missy provided the text and the videos, images for this presentation. As many of you know, for the last 7 years, members and friends of our congregation have volunteered and offered financial support to meet the needs of Collier County school children who quietly go hungry over the weekend. Missy and the Weekend Meals team offer their sincere thanks for all of those who have made this program possible. Thank you to those of you who have given your time volunteering to help shop, pack, and deliver meals to the children in the Calusa, Lely, Vineyards, and Golden Gate elementary schools this year. Thank you to all of those who have given your treasure to support this effective cause that is directly impacting the lives of these children and their families on a weekly basis. As you can see in the video, Wednesday mornings are a very busy time at the church as meals are assembled, bagged, and delivered. And I can tell you from my own vantage point from my office that the team has a heck of a lot of fun doing it. There's a lot of conversation and a lot of laughter, but mostly it's the reward, I think, of knowing they and your contributions of time and treasure make such a difference in the lives of these kids. Through your generosity and the work of 36 dedicated volunteers, we've been able to provide weekend meals for 83 children. And so far this year, we've distributed 1,975 blue bags full of food. And that computes to a lot of satisfied customers, as you can see by these wonderful cards that are sent back to us from the children of these elementary schools. Images are so expressive. Their delight in receiving chocolate milk, granola bars, Fruit Loops, other kinds of things are really wonderful. So, thank you. Here's where you can come in and help right now. You can sponsor a child for 1 year of weekend meals for $250. You can co-sponsor a child for $125. Or whatever contribution level you consider helpful, please donate, because all donations are appreciated. You can submit your donation by mailing a check to the church and listing weekend meals on the memo line, or by going to our UUCGN website at www.uunaples.org and accessing the Serve Others tab in the green navigation bar running across the top of the page. That will direct you to the page for weekend meals where you can use the donate button to complete your transaction. Thank you in advance for your contributions and your support this coming year for this incredibly meaningful and worthy program. And thanks again for the team and for Missy for the work that they do. This is the point where I would ask you to silence your cell phones, but I hope you're getting yourself comfortable. Take a deep breath as we enter now into our time of worship with our morning's prelude. We don't come into this gathering as empty vessels, but as full people. Each of us brings a separate truth here. We bring the truth of our own life, our own story. We seek to add to our truths, to add to our stories. This community is rich with truth, rich with experience. All manner of people are here. Needy people, joyful people, frightened people, anxious people, bored people. We all bring our truth with us. May we all recognize the truths that we all bring as we gather together. May we all recognize the story of other lives that join us on this journey. May we hear and honor the truths that we all bring as we gather together. For together we have truths. Together we have a story. Together we are a community. Please join me in the chalice lighting response printed in your order of service. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the unity we seek. So this was to be, and still is, a family service. So I hope we have the full breadth of our congregation out there watching either now or at some other points during the week. Our time for all ages this morning is a story that was offered to us or shared with us by Ed Ostrom, our worship associate to be today. It's called The Monster in the Closet. There was once a boy who was afraid of the dark. He didn't like going out of the house at night. He was absolutely positive that when his room was dark, it began to fill up with monsters. And so he did what any smart boy would do. He slept with the light on. But there came a time when his parents thought he was too old, number one, to believe in monsters, and number two, to be allowed to sleep with the light on. That first night, when his dad said goodnight and switched off the light, the boy lay there in his bed for a long time with his eyes wide open and his muscles all tensed up. Finally, he remembered he had a flashlight. But it was in a basket on a shelf hanging on the inside of the closet door. He lay there for a long time more. It took him a long time to get up the courage to get out of bed. It took him a long time to get over to the closet door. It took him a long time to get up the courage to put his hand on the doorknob of the closet. And it took him a long time to swing that door open. And finally, when it opened, he came face to face with a monster. And he let out a huge yelp. The monster took a step backwards, grabbed its multicolored hair with its tentacles, and started crying. The monster cried for so long that the boy's shock and fear seemed to drain away. He actually started telling the monster to stop crying, trying to calm it down. He told the monster not to worry, that everything was going to be okay. And then he asked the monster why it was crying, and he asked it what it was doing there in the first place. Now the monster's crying slowly and finally subsided, and between sobs he told the boy that it lived in the closet, but almost never went out because it was afraid of the boy. When the boy asked him Why? The monster said. The boy's face seemed to be him the most horrible thing in the world, with 2 eyes, a nose, 2 ears, and only 1 mouth. Well, the boy felt exactly the same way about the monster, who had an enormous head full of mouths and hair. The 2 of them stared at each other for a while, and then started asking each other some more questions, and got to talking so much that their hearts stopped pounding so much, and their breathing sort of returned back to normal. They talked about other things they were afraid of, and why, and after a long while, they realized that both of them had been afraid of the same thing. They were afraid of the unknown. To lose their fear, all they had to do was to get to know each other. So, while the boy's parents weren't happy that he was now okay, they were happy that he was now okay with having the light out at night, they still thought he was a little too old to believe in monsters. But the truth of it was that all kinds of creatures visited the boy's bedroom each night. But instead of fearing them, the boy had learned to get to know them and befriend them, those unknown things. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. With those beautiful notes and the remembrance of those wonderful words, I feel closer to you. I know that many of you are struggling in different ways. I know that many of you are bored, angry. I know that each of you are worried about loved ones, far and near. And while no one has sent in a specific joy or sorrow for me to share with you this morning, I think we can all close our eyes and imagine ourselves in this sanctuary, knowing that all our lives are full of ups and downs, and that each of us, if we could speak a joy or a sorrow, would enjoy sharing with this loving community. The meditation that I have for you this morning is a poem, again, by Naomi Shihab Nye, called Kindness. So if you would just take a deep breath and maybe close your eyes to listen. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment, like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow and loss as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows. You see the size of the cloth. Then, it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out for the day to gaze at bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend. We'll share a little silence together. While Mary Borland, our Director of Religious Exploration, couldn't be with us this morning, she has provided us with another story in this service about the wisdom of story.
Otagaki Rengetsu and the Worth of Cherry Blossoms. Story adapted by Mary Borland from Rengetsu's Wikipedia bio, and the story from the book Kindness, a Treasury of Buddhist Wisdom for Children and Parents, collected and adapted by Sarah Conover. Rengetsu, a poet, potter, and calligrapher, lived in Japan from 1791 to 1875. Her name, Rengetsu, has meaning. The Ren part means lotus, and Getsu means moon. She took that name when she became a Buddhist nun after personal tragedy. Her husband and all her children died. In her grief, she cut off all her hair and eventually began to make her living through her art. She wrote her poems onto her pottery, and people loved her poems and her artwork. In a teapot at the Walters Art Museum, there's a poem that goes like this. May the pine wind flowing, flowing through the house brush away the dust of the ages. The poetry in graceful calligraphy was in the form of 5 lines and 31 syllables. She became so famous for her poetry, she found herself moving from one place to another to get some quiet. I imagine this is one of her poems that she wrote when thinking about her children. Reflecting on this fleeting world makes me sad, like rain from the sky, my tears falling. Like many of us, she found beauty and solace in nature, expressed in this poem. From a spring brocade woven of willows and cherries, colors bloom in the voice of the warbler. She was named Japanese patron saint of the arts, but often used the money from selling her art to help others. She gave many warm kimonos away to street beggars when it was cold, and one time, when a thief entered her home, she lit the lamp for him and put on some water for tea and invited the thief to talk about his dire situation. Isn't that brave compassion in action? One time, wandering the forest and mountains, she walked from noon until late into the day without seeing anyone. Finally, she came to a small village alongside a river. It was evening, and she humbly asked for a place to sleep at the inn, but was turned away. No room at the inn. She rested as the stars came out, listening to the sounds of families finishing their evening meal and preparing for sleep as the lamps went out one by one. Rengetsu was tired but not discouraged. She recalled an abandoned orchard seen on her way into the village that had had a lush carpet of green grass, and decided that that was where she would lay down and sleep that night. Tired, she fell asleep quickly under the branches of a cherry tree. Later, she was awakened by a light. Opening her eyes and saw the misty moon in its soft light, and then realized that during her sleep, thousands of cherry blossoms had blossomed, each flower cupping moonlight. Beauty before her took her breath away. She turned toward the village then to thank them for refusing her a bed. For this gift of nature was more to her than one good night's sleep. And then she composed this poem. Turned away at the inn, I take this unkindness as grace, resting instead beneath the hazy moon and evening blossoms. During her life, Rengetsu shared pain and sorrow as all humans do, and seemed to accept life as it unfolded in its unexpected ways. She created art to help express the full range of human emotion and to reflect the power of nature to heal. Grasping the beauty of the moment and transforming perspective are indeed gifts for us to this very day.
So we thank Mary for sending that in. Over these past few weeks, including today, in our services, we're mostly focused on how we are coping as individuals and also as coming together in community. Today we learned a little bit about the wisdom of story and maybe what we can learn from our experiences today. We haven't talked a lot about giving except during our offering. But this coming week, I expect that we will begin to see a new direction for the virus and for our country, and will hopefully feel, as some of you have already felt, a need and an urge to find ways to give. So far in my explorations around the community and calls to leaders of various segments of our population, I haven't found a particular place where we might send you in terms of providing your financial gifts. I'm looking particularly for places that would help folks immediately in need, offering assistance for bills and food and so forth. That kind of place doesn't necessarily exist in Southwest Florida here, but there's talk and there's organization going on. We also want to be able to help those folks on the front line of the healthcare services in some way. So you'll be hearing more about that. Right now, I think the best thing you could do is to support this congregation and its ongoing life, virtually anyway, and on the life of all the work that continues to be done to get us organized and get our new board in place and all the things that are happening outside of these church buildings. So we hope that you will be generous today with your morning's offering. If you remember, you have opportunities here either to go on a separate browser page to our home web page at www.uunaples.org and click the donate button. Or you can wait until after the service and do that. Or you can find a place to put your weekly plate offering while we are not meeting together. And then when the time comes for us to celebrate our in-gathering once again, to bring your collection to the congregation. All those things are possible. I hope you will pursue one or the other. And for the ongoing mission of this congregation, the morning offering will be gratefully received. Our reading this morning is from Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi, Story Water. A story is like water that you heat for your bath. It takes the message between the fire and your skin. It lets them meet, and it cleans you. Very few can sit down in the middle of the fire itself, like a salamander or Abraham. We need intermediaries. A feeling of fullness comes, but usually it takes some bread to bring it. Beauty surrounds us, but usually we need to be walking in a garden to know it. The body itself is a screen to shield and partially reveal the light that's blazing inside your presence. Water, stories, the body, all things we do are mediums that hide and show what's hidden. Study them and enjoy this feeling of being washed with a secret we sometimes know and then not. So, how are you feeling out there? I know there's children at home learning new ways to learn, and teachers learning new ways to learn. Lan spent her first week of instruction over the internet this week. She smiles. Introverts and extroverts living together are maybe trying to figure each other out. Problem solvers are looking for problems to solve, and creative types for creative outlets. But all of us, I think, are feeling a bit weird, a bit uneasy. An article that someone sent me talked about the fact that we are all experiencing grief. Grief is something you feel when you lose someone or something important to you. And in this situation, we might be feeling grief for a number of reasons. We're feeling loss of connections with family and friends and community. We're certainly feeling loss of normalcy. All our lives are interrupted. We're feeling, if we ever had it, a loss of safety and security, a feeling of vulnerability. And we tend to go through what have been identified as the stages of grief, though, as the psychologists will tell you, the stages are only a name. And everything we do is organic, and nothing is linear. Things repeat themselves often. But as for the identified stages, denial, we can, all of us, sort of identify with that. Oh, it won't be too bad. It won't affect me. We can certainly identify with anger at people making decisions that take the control of our own lives away from us, what I can and can't do. We fall into bargaining. Well, if I follow all the instructions and isolate myself for a week, then everything's going to be okay. And we feel sadness. Sadness for all those things and our isolation and our loss. The stage of grief that we all try to find is acceptance, where you figure out how you can regain control, regain a sense of self and purpose. What do I do during this time? How can I make the best of it? As I said, these kinds of things don't happen in a straight line. We go round and round, repeating stages, feeling strange. We're never quite ready when we have to be for the next step. We do have to be ready, and that takes time. There's a wonderful story from the Hindu traditions about this. Being ready, I mean. Shiva and Shakti, the divine couple of Hinduism, sit in their heavenly abode watching over the earth. They are touched by the challenges of human life, the complexity of human reactions, and the ever-present place of suffering in the human experience. As they watch, Shakti spies a miserable, poor old man walking down a road. His clothes are old and worn, and his sandals are tied together with rope. Shakti's heart grows full of compassion. Touched by the man's goodness and his struggle, Shakti turns to her divine husband and begs him to give this man some gold. Shiva, in turn, looks at the man for a long moment and says, "My dearest wife, I cannot do that." Shakti is astounded. "Why? What do you mean, husband? You're the Lord of the universe. Why can't you do this simple thing?" "I cannot give this to him because he's not yet ready to receive it," Shiva replies. And Shakti's anger grows. "Do you mean to say that you cannot drop a bag of gold in his path?" "Surely I can," Shiva replies, "but that's quite another thing." "Please, husband," says Shakti. And so Shiva drops a bag of gold in the man's path. Meanwhile, the man has been walking along thinking to himself, "I wonder if I'll find dinner tonight, or shall I go hungry again?" Turning a bend in the road, he sees something on the path in his way. "Aha," he says, "look there, a large rock. How fortunate that I have seen it. I might have torn these poor sandals of mine even farther." And carefully stepping over the bag of gold, he goes on his way. It seems that life drops many bags of gold in our path, but often we're not ready for them, and rarely do they look like what they are. So what have you been feeling? What can you do to pay a little more attention to those thoughts and fears that have been going through your mind? Who can you talk to about them? And then, as time goes on, and perhaps when you're ready, what little bags of gold can you find in your everyday life? What opportunities that might offer you a new way of being, a new way of looking at things? We can learn so much from stories. They have a way of getting under our skin and working on us even once we've done listening or reading them. Or as Rumi says, they wash us with little bits of wisdom that we sometimes catch and sometimes don't. We are storytelling creatures. And like little pack rats, we tend to pick up pieces of story here and there that make sense to us or move us emotionally. And we weave them into our own narrative, all in an attempt to make meaning of this strange and wonderful thing we call life. We do this as individuals, and then when we come together in community and share our stories, we have an even bigger story that we create and make sense of things beyond our own selves, our own lives. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that the story of humankind is linked inseparably with the continuous unfolding of the story of the earth and its creatures. It's a story filled with wonder and breathtaking beauty and great surprise. It's also a story filled with the harsh realities of birth and death, of pain and loss, hatred and denial, of reconciliation and rejuvenation. We believe we are a part of the ongoing story of creation, that we have reached a point in our own evolution where we actually have an influence. as to how the story plays out. And note that I said influence and not control, because as we have learned, we often find that nature has a way of reminding us of our limited powers. But when I say influence, I mean that we must do all we can to bring goodness into the world, to live each day as if it matters, to see the opportunities that are right there in our path. And mostly those opportunities have to do with giving and receiving love. May that be true for all of you on this beautiful day. So, look at your emails. Take part, please, in our annual meeting. We need every one of you to join in and participate. Stick with the technology. Keep trying. And until we meet again, stay home, but send your heart out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. And have a wonderful day.